Hey there YouTube, JCM45 here, coming at you with yet another action figure review. Today we're going to be looking at Figma number 481, Eijiro Kirishima, from the hit anime My Hero Academia. This is now the fourth release in the Figma My Hero Academia line, so let's get into it. Before we take a look at the figure, we'll take a quick look at his box. As you can see here, we have a nice red theme matching Kirishima's red color scheme and his hero name, Red Riot. And it's the pretty standard Figma My Hero Academia box. We've received several of these before, and each one is slightly different, with the color scheme being similar to that of the hero that is in the box. So we've got Figma number 481, the My Hero Academia logo, some Japanese I can't read, and a nice window here with some warnings. Flip it over to the side, we've got some promo shots of Kirishima looking cool. Flipping this over to the back, we have some more promo shots in various poses and a couple of the different face sculpts we get. Flipping it over yet again, we get another promo shot. On the top, more promo shots, Figma number 481, My Hero Academia. And on the back, or the bottom, we have the same as the top, except for the barcode. Alright, so now that we've taken a look at this guy, let's get him out of the package. Okay, getting this guy out of the packaging and messing around with him for an hour or two, I gotta say, I like him a lot. He's very cool. So, let's get into it. Starting off, we'll take a nice closer look here at Kirishima. We'll start at his head, and as you can see, they captured the likeness of the character from the show quite nicely. Coming in closer here, you can see that the eyes and the mouth are printed on quite nicely there. He has his little face plate that he wears. His hair points are quite nice. We'll talk about these spikes here up on the front in a little bit. Moving on back, we have a nice red shade to his hair. As far as I can tell, I don't think there is a wash in there, but maybe a little bit to kind of bring out the details. It looks really good nonetheless. I have no complaints. Looks very nice. And overall, I really like the way they did the head sculpt. My only complaint would be when swapping out the faces, which we'll get into in a little bit, the hair can be a little spiky on your fingers. So, like I said, we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but that's something to be aware of. Moving on down here, he is shirtless, so you do have a nice flesh-colored plastic there. He could have maybe done with a little bit of shading to bring out the details, but it's not too bad. The gears here are their own separate molded pieces. They're on their own ball, or they're actually connected to the shoulders here on a ball joint, as you can see. So they do have some range of movement. And you can kind of move them around, and they kind of, we'll talk about that with articulation, but they are a separate piece. This wire here is also a separate piece. I'm not sure if it's supposed to, it does go all the way around. And that doesn't really impede articulation or anything, because that is its own kind of floating piece there. Moving on down, the R on his belt is a nice red, just like it is in the show, and that's looking good there. Turning on around, he does have a peg hole in his back for the included Figma stand. And his arms are looking good. And we'll take a look at his swappable forearms here in a little bit with the accessories. Moving on down to his pants and his coat. I don't know what you want to call this piece, this piece of cloth here on his costume, but it's tattered nicely. It does have a red and kind of brownish hue there. Now, I don't know how well I'm describing that color, because I am red-green colorblind, and browns and reds and greens are really, really difficult for me. So, if I'm wrong about the color of this piece of cloth, quote-unquote, here, forgive me. These back pieces here are on their own ball joints here on the bottom, which is nice, so they can kind of move and get out of your way, and you can kind of just pose them wherever you want. This flap here on the back, I think that's just part of the belt. It's just its own kind of floating piece as well. That's just kind of sitting there, but it's pretty nicely secured. Moving on down, his pants are a nice kind of gray blackish, and moving on to his boots, they're also gray and a little bit of brown, and they're looking quite nice as well. Overall, I think Figma did a really good job in capturing the likeness of this character, and I really like the way they've done it. I feel like Figma has probably some of the better looking My Hero Academia figures out there so far. So, we'll take a look at Articulation. So, starting at the head, that is on a ball joint. It can rotate about that far. There is something kind of impeding. I think it's the neck that is impeding it from turning a full 360 degrees, but it can go about there. He can look up about that far. He can look down about that far. And you do get a little bit of tilt going back and forth there, so that's pretty good. The shoulders are on a ball joint. They got some good rotation there, and as I was talking about earlier, these gears are attached via, I believe, a ball joint. I can't quite see underneath there, but they are attached to the shoulder there, and they just kind of rotate around with the joint. I have popped I'm not going to try to do it now, but I have popped this shoulder off just while I've been messing with it, and it is a ball joint, and this does stay attached to the figure itself instead of the arms, so that is connected that way, but it doesn't get in the way at all, and I really like how they did that. It works really well. The arm can go up about that far. It can rotate all the way around, no problem. There is a little bit of a bicep swivel up here at the shoulder, or not a bicep swivel, but a swivel here at the shoulder because of the ball, so you can kind of rotate you just pop that off there. And as you can see, there's the ball joint, and there's how the gear is attached there. So that's pretty well done there, pretty nicely done. You just pop that back on like so. And then, like I said, it does offer a little bit of swivel, but if you do it too far like I did, it'll pop off. The elbows are a double elbow, and they bend well past 90 there, which is quite nice. And the wrist is the standard oop. And as you can see, this kind of pops off, and we'll talk about this here in a little bit, because this has happened a few times with me. So, talking about the elbows, we did that already. We'll talk about the wrists. They are on a swivel hinge swivel system, so you can move it out up and down, in and out, all sorts of stuff. So it's pretty standard there, and then they just swap out like so. And pop back on. Moving on to the torso. Torso's on a ball joint. It can go forward about that far. It can go back about that far. He can go side to side quite nice. He can twist a little bit. This wire here does not get in the way, which is great. And yeah, there is no, at least on mine, I don't know if it's stuck or not, but there is no waist articulation. That is just where it's going to be. It doesn't move. I don't know if they did that because of the design of the hips and the belt. I don't know. But mine doesn't move there. The only torso articulation is here in the ball joint here in the center. Moving on down to the hips, he can kick forward that far once you get the skirt here out of the way. He can kick back only about that. He can't really kick back at all, honestly, because of the skirt, even when you move it out of the way. And because the skirt is on a ball joint, you can kick it out that much, and he can spread about that far. That's not awful, especially considering he has this skirt that kind of impedes him. But because it's on a ball joint like that, it doesn't really get too much in the way, so can't really complain there. It works well enough. The knees bend about that far. You're not really going to get them that much farther than that because of the skirt. Once again, it is what it is. There is a thigh swivel here, so you can swivel the thigh quite nicely. And then you've got your pretty standard Figma ankles there. You get a little bit of, you actually get more tilt than usual out of some Figma ankles there. I'm looking at you, Todoroki. We'll talk about that in a later review. But yeah, interesting. And we do have a boot cut right there to allow swivel. And so that is Kirishima's articulation. Real quick, in the articulation section, I did forget to mention that Kirishima does have a toe joint. So next up, we're going to take a look at accessories. And so Kirishima comes with 2 alternate faces, comes with 1 smiling face, very happy looking, which is quite nice, quite great. Represents his personality quite well. Now, to be aware, actually, you know what, we'll talk about swapping faces in its own section because there's something to talk about there. So, his second alternate face here is a shouting face when he's in combat. That's very nice. He also comes with 2 alternate arm pieces, demonstrating his power, which is hardening. And I will demonstrate how to swap these out at the elbows here in a little bit. And they do also have the same hinge and swivel system wrists. So those are cool. Very nice to have a demonstration of his quirk. And then we have an array of hands on the traditional Figma hand tray, which is, I really like these. These are great because they keep hands very nice and organized. So he does come with 4 pairs of fists on both the extra arms here as well as the arms out of the package. He comes with 2 relaxed hands, 2 gripping hands that are they have like a hole in them so you can grip stuff. I'm not quite sure what he's supposed to grip, but they're there, so that's nice. A couple of kind of splayed out action hands there, and then 1 thumbs up hand. In addition to that, we also get a replacement wrist joint. Most Figmas nowadays come with one of these. These are always nifty to have. We also get the standard Figma stand that can kind of port into his back. That's quite nice to have. And as well as tradition with Figma, we have a nice baggie here to store all of his accessories. I always appreciate these because you're able to keep all your stuff in one place, and I like to see more companies including these because I think Mezco does as well. But yeah, I really do appreciate the plastic baggies. It makes storing accessories very easy. And so those are his accessories. Okay, so we're going to go over now how to swap out his arms for his quirk arms and swap his faces because there is some stuff we got to talk about with his face. So, real quick, the arms do pop off here at the elbow. You just gently twist and pull. I'm kind of babying it here. I'm sure if you pull a little bit harder, it's fine. Come on. Oh, this one does not want to come out. Darn it. So this happens sometimes, it pulls it out of the wrong socket, so just pull that out like so, and just reattach like so. Not a big deal, just kind of obnoxious. There we go. Okay, so this swaps out like that, put that arm off to the side, you take let's stand him up here so he doesn't fall over, take his quirk arm, it's going to be this one here. This is just a placeholder peg to kind of prevent anything from kind of getting into the arm there. And then you just carefully insert the arm into the peg. And you have Kirishima. There we go. Showing off his quirk. And all the hands are interchangeable. It's just the same wrist system. And yeah. So that's really cool. Very nice to do. I really like that they included these pieces, and they're pretty easy to swap out. I can't complain. Other than the joint popping out the other side, which, okay, big deal. Now the faces. Faces are a little bit more of a concern. So, when he was released a few days ago, I saw a couple posts stating that these spikes here, you must be very, very careful with them because they will easily break off. So when swapping faces, do not, I repeat, do not put any pressure on these spikes because they definitely have the potential to break. I've been very careful to avoid doing that. Also coming on, so to swap it out, you just grab here. I like to grab by the bottom here, kind of by where his faceplate kind of connects to this back band here, and just kind of gently wiggle it off, pop it out. Now the face that comes on the figure out of the packaging has no problems popping on and off. However, these other faces are very difficult to pop on and really don't want to go in easily. And so the best way I found to do it is to kind of line it up and just kind of carefully, you see, I'm having trouble doing this right now. Yeah, there we go. And just kind of rock it back and forth in there. And there it goes. Like I said, carefully avoiding putting pressure on these spikes. Now, one thing I noticed is when doing something like that, you have to be very careful of these spikes. The first time I swapped faces, I did it by applying pressure here to the face and using my index finger to stabilize the head against the spikes, and I trashed my finger up pretty bad. It was not great. Figma recommends putting a cloth or a paper towel or something behind it, and that will alleviate that issue. So I recommend doing something like that if you're having some trouble with swapping the faces out. Honestly, after the first time, this was a lot easier to go in, and so I'll probably check out this one. I haven't swapped this one yet. I'll probably do that later and see how easy it is. But this was definitely a lot easier to go in the second time, so I think once you swap them once or twice, you should be good. Just be very careful avoiding putting pressure on these spikes. You wouldn't want them to break. That would be unfortunate. Next up, we've got some size comparisons. First, we'll take a look at a few of Kirishima's classmates. We have the Figma Deku, how he appeared in the first season. The amazing Yamaguchi Deku, as he appears in season 3 with his costume Gamma. Figma Kirishima, Figma Bakugo, and the Figma Shoto Todoroki figure review for him coming soon. So they all look pretty good together. I do think Deku, the Figma Deku, is just a little short. I know he's supposed to be smaller in season 1 and he grows, and so the amazing Yamaguchi is a pretty good representation of that. But I think these four here, they look really good together. And I'm pretty excited about how Class 1A is coming along. I'm excited for Uraraka at the end of the month, and then hopefully we'll be seeing a couple more students. Love to see Ida, Froppy, got quite a few characters they can make. And then real quick here's Kirishima with 2 of the available All Might figures. We have the amazing Yamaguchi here on the left, and the McFarlane here on the right. And I think he looks good with both of them. And then finally, we have your standard Marvel Legends Bucky Cap mold with Deadpool there, and your standard Black Series Stormtrooper. So my final thoughts on Red Riot here are, he's a pretty good figure. I like him a lot. I think they did a really good job with the aesthetic of the figure. I think they captured the likeness of the animation from the show really, really well. I think Figma has actually honestly been doing the best at that. They're some of the more accurate My Hero figures we have. The Revel techs are pretty nice. I like those a lot so far, especially Deku. Deku's really nice. But I just think the Figmas edge them out just a little bit in terms of accuracy. Because this just looks exactly like Kirishima. This looks literally like he jumped off of the TV screen, and that's really cool. The faces they chose for him are great. I think they capture his personality quite well. They're very expressive. Love that. His articulation is a little limited in places, especially the hips and the knees because of the skirt here, but they did try to mitigate that as best they could with the ball joints, so I do appreciate that. I do like how they did the cogs here. I think they did a really nice job being able to kind of manipulate and move them around. They don't get in the way at all. Yes, the slight QC issues where my right arm, or his left arm on mine, pops off a little easily at the shoulder. It is what it is. You get those every once in a while. It's not a huge deal. It pops on very easily, so I can't complain there. It's fine. The only complaint I can really have is about the faces, and it's kind of a shame that they're so tight and so difficult to put on, but like I said, after one or two attempts of swapping it out, and I did try that other shouting face, and that was a lot tougher to get on, but I think once, like I said, once you kind of get it on there finally, and you let it sit there for a bit, I think it kind of warps the plastic in a way that it fits a little bit better going forward, so shouldn't have much issues after that. Just like I said, be very wary of the front spikes. You don't want to mess those up, and you don't want to mess up your fingers on these back ones, because they are sharp, and there's quite a few of them. So overall, I really, really like this figure. It's going to be a great addition to my Hero Academia shelf. Honestly, that's one of the better newer animes that I've been watching. I'm really enjoying that show, so I'm really enjoying the toys coming out of it. I'm really excited for Uraraka at the end of the month, or technically towards the end of the month, depending on when this video goes up. And yeah, so looking forward to that. So keep an eye out. I will be reviewing Todoroki here in the next couple days, and I will be uploading that. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Like, comment, subscribe, do what you do, and I'll see you next time.